2017 Women's March called out our male-dominated society and patriarchal doctrine as the sources of the world's imbalance. It made it clear that equality and other feminine principles are essential to the evolution and survival of humanity. History tells us that at one time women and men were equal, when Goddess was central to all of life. In recent years in the United States, Goddess has reawakened. Women and men now worship the feminine form of God as their source of peace, power, and guidance. Many believe that Goddess can help restore balance to their lives and the entire planet. Goddess spirituality, or women's spirituality, is now established in America as a vibrant spiritual path.
Hi, I'm Meloney Hudson. I'm an advocate for equality and women's empowerment. I believe our world needs more feminine spirit to bring balance to our patriarchal culture. In this series, I'll tell you about women's spirituality and the movement that established goddess worship as an alternative spiritual path in America. This is Rise of Venus.
Goddesses and goddess religion aren't new. Goddess has been worshipped since the beginning of time in all places around the globe. Female deities represent her as human, animal, and nature. Figurines and paintings dating back to 30,000 BCE indicate a reverence for feminine mysteries. Since women could perform the miracle of birth, surely it was believed that the creator of all of existence must be a woman. All over the globe, for tens of thousands of years, goddesses of every kind were worshipped for their prevailing powers over every aspect of life.
We can talk to any person and find out whatever your heritage is, there is a goddess. There's a goddess in Italy, there's goddesses, China, Australia, all over South America, anywhere. You always can go back and find her.
As polytheistic pantheons developed, goddesses were worshipped with gods, who were often their brothers, sons, husbands, or lovers. Archaeological findings in Europe from the Neolithic era dating 7,000 to 2,500 BCE tell us that women were held in high esteem and held prominent roles in society. Women and men were equal. There was no evidence of war.
Men were part of women's world. There was more of a partnership, but because women were venerated first over men, they were honored. So this all took place before patriarchy. So even if you want to take the spirituality out of it, women had a prominent role in society worldwide.
Around the 7th century BCE, the idea of a single male god started to take seed. By the 3rd century AD, monotheistic religion and the belief in one all-powerful male god was firmly rooted. Goddess religions were considered abominations. Over a period of hundreds of years, goddess temples and her worshippers were destroyed. Patriarchal holy scriptures portrayed women as the downfall of mankind, her primary purpose to serve men and propagate. Women lost their status, their rights, their voices. In some parts of the world, goddess worship continued, but in secret, or under an overarching patriarchal social system. Goddess went underground.
In the 1970s, Goddess made her return with the revival of goddess worship in America.
During the second wave of the women's liberation movement, as women rallied for equality and reproductive rights, information about ancient goddess religions and women's lofty positions in those societies began to circulate. Historians, scholars, artists, and theologians spread the information to a population hungry for women revering spirituality.
We looked at the outer playing field of feminism, but for some of us, it wasn't enough in the inner world of having sanctified, sustainable inner images of of a divine feminine. We needed some other image to complete ourselves.
By the 1980s, the women's spirituality movement fully emerged. Mainstream women latched on to new ways to connect with the divine.
The image of the goddess and the image of nurturance from a female perspective, and even hormonally oxytocin and not testosterone, became very important to women.
What many women were looking for at that point was some sort of healing from religion that had taught them that they were lesser than or bad.
Appreciation for their own womanhood was heightened. Goddess communities formed around the country, and for many women, goddess spirituality was the source of their liberation from patriarchy.
So there was a tremendous energy. There were many circles and many energies happening.
Women's spirituality grew and grew over maybe a decade and a half, 2 decades, and then all of a sudden more, certainly most of my friends were then feeling seen, feeling empowered, being filled with joy.
The women's spirituality movement is the exact antidote to this war on nature, to this war on the imagination, to this war on the feminine, at the deepest roots.
Today in the United States, the women's spirituality movement continues as a cultural undercurrent, and goddess spirituality is a fast-growing sacred path. For millions of people, it renews their connection with the divine and enables them to experience the glorious spirit within them, often for the first time.
There is such a wonderful multiplicity of female figures to identify with out there, whose attributes we want to focus upon and make more our own. They've helped women by giving women a sense that they can identify with the divine, that they have that spark of divinity within them.
Having these images of the goddess and having the energies of the goddess, there's nothing more important than that to transform society, because we need to transform it.
As people in America and around the globe continue to strive for equality and rights, it's clear that a feminine ideology can help correct the course of our male-dominated culture and guide us to a world that's more peaceful, respectful, and equal.
That's what we're trying to bring back into patriarchy, to balance the patriarchal life that we live in, and to help other women to do the same. It doesn't have to look like an American revolution, but we're calling on certain aspects. If we can look at women before patriarchy, we can balance our societies.
I know that the image of the goddess is changing the world. It already is changing the world and changing people's consciousness. How would that world look? It would not have hierarchical relationships of power. It wouldn't be domination, it would be a partnership. Of course, women would be treated better in such a culture because we're people and we're women. There would be more respect for the forces of life. There would be more respect for nature. It wouldn't be treating our world like a garbage dump. It would be more respectful of the processes of life and that mystery of being alive.
In upcoming episodes, I'll tell you more about women's spirituality. You'll meet a few of the foremothers of the women's spirituality movement and other women who are spreading the ways of the divine feminine into our culture today. You'll learn how ancient women's history, spiritual practices, and even your own body can bolster your feminine power. You won't want to miss it. So join us again on Rise of Venus.